Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Before starting my video, if you didn't subscribe my channel yet, please do, and do not forget to turn on notifications as I'm sharing every week great content for you. Alright guys, in this lesson we will continue with invoice services, but I have some time problem. That's why I created everything previous lesson. Now I'm going to just show you what I did, and I will do the explanation and testings with you guys. Alright, I've changed the scenario a little bit. Now we don't have any more invoice item services because I would like to manipulate my invoice items using invoice services, because invoice items a member of our invoices. So if we don't have any invoices, invoice item doesn't make sense standalone. So if we have invoice, we need invoice items. If we don't have invoice, we don't need invoice items. That's why I delete it, and we will do all manipulations our invoice items through to invoice. Alright, let me have a look my git changes and let's do the amendments step by step. Okay, first of all, I copy and paste everything what I did in client services to the invoice services. Let me show you. And I divided it two with base methods, same as what we did exactly in client. You can copy and paste, change the name to the invoice, and you can use them all like client services. Let me show the controller as well. I created an invoice controller here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, there is an invoice controller. Alright, so I just copy and paste everything here, and you can just change the names and use everything. And I changed the root section in this video. Now I'm going to show you how we can use with action names. If you type slash and action after controller, the address is going to be basically let me type here, base address slash API slash invoice slash get all invoices. This is our URL for this method. Let's copy and paste for all of them. Okay, this is going to be invoice by ID, but we have an ID parameter here, then it is going to be ID. For example, 5. What kind of, it depends what kind of ID you're using. If you're using GoID, it's going to be GoID. And this is going to be create invoice. This is our URL. This is our update invoice. This is our URL. By the way, why I switch these routes instead of previous with what we use in client controller? Because we have more than one HTTP put. We added for those two methods for manipulate our invoice items. So to remove the conflicts, basically we just did this. Alright, let's continue. Delete invoice. And remove invoice items. I'm going to explain these two methods. Don't worry about it. Just I'm showing you the URLs for now. Alright, let's put this a little bit down. Okay, let's continue where we left. Okay, just add your base methods and let's continue. You can pause the video, you can add those methods, and you can continue. We can continue where we left. Okay, let me show you everything. Alright, let's continue. Once I change invoice controller, add invoice controller, let me have a look my git changes. Okay, now it's time to by the way, I test those creating invoices and everything. It's all working. Now I add my, let me show you. Actually, I manipulate my DTO. While I creating an invoice, first of all, I need to add at least one invoice item. Okay, so let's go back our invoice item DTO. I created two new DTO, which I'm going to tell you about why I create those. But let's have a look invoice item DTO. Let me have a look what I did invoice item DTO. Let me see the changes. Okay, I deleted previous lesson I had invoice ID and invoice, but I don't need to show them, I just delete those. Okay, let's have a look invoice item update DTO, what I did as a changes. Okay, I add auto calculations. Let me show you. Let's go back our Solution Explorer, invoice create DTO. Previous lesson, if you check your existing codes, we have just get and set here, but I'm now making auto calculate. So all we need to add price, name and quantity. The setter is set, but I don't want user set manually. That's why I add this private set. So we can set these things using developer mode, but user cannot able to set manually these properties. So it is going to be calculated automatically. Price multiply quantity makes the total, and 20% tax is going to be VAT. And if you collect each other, total and VAT is going to be grand total. This is one invoice item figures. All right. So it's calculated and it's going to be same as the update. I just copy and paste from create DTO to here, and our invoice items DTO is completed. All right, let's go now invoice DTO. I divided invoice update for add items and remove items, which I'm going to explain a couple of minutes later. Let me continue what I did in create and DTO. In DTO, I guess I just delete one property. Let me have a look. Invoice DTO. Okay, I just fix that DTO because I'm representing entity itself in our DTO. I just switch it invoice item DTO. It's a small fixing here. When we go back our invoice create DTO, basically we have a list of our invoice items, and I'm just put another logic here. I'm going to just get a summary of VAT and assign as a total VAT, a total, and total grand total, and all private set, because I don't want my user set those numbers, those figures manually. All right, and the last one is client ID. We will see the client ID. Actually, we will assign the client ID while we're creating our invoices. Okay, I'm not touching the invoice update for now. It's going to be a little bit different. Let's leave it for a second. I'm going to show you later. Alright, guys. Anything else should I tell you? Actually, I deleted invoice update and I add invoice update for add items DTO, and I need the invoice update itself, by the way. Let's copy quickly and just paste here one more time. Invoice update DTO. I'm going to need it anyway. Or I don't know, I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna check it anyway. Okay, invoice update DTO and invoice item. Actually, I have I'm using invoice item update TTO here, so I don't need it anymore. Okay, I can use these. That's why I deleted in the first one. Okay, I can use that remove items for invoice item update for update as well. Okay. When we go to services, you're going to understand what I did. Okay, I guess it's all done. Let's go back our services now. Invoice services. Okay. This is our signature and these are our methods. Okay. These are base methods you can copy and paste from your client section and change the names. I didn't do any changes in this base methods section, guys. And you can also download my repository and you can see the codes and copy and paste for your own project if you want. Okay, this is now invoice item methods, guy. As you can see, we have an invoice basically. Okay, before starting this one, let me check my invoice update. Okay, update invoice. Yeah, this is a small problem here. I'm gonna make it just remove update because remove is the same as the normal update. Okay, just small bug fixing before having it. Let's go back here. Alright, do not forget to fix this one. If you clone my repository, it's going to be alright anyway. Alright, let's stop talking about base methods. Let's continue with the invoice item methods. Let's minimize this base methods section. But if you want, before starting invoice item section, let's have a try what I did first for base methods. Are they working or not? Then we can continue the invoice item methods and we have an error message. Let's have a look. Okay, we forgot to fix this one as well. This is a small box while I was creating our methods. It's alright. Let's continue the invoice. First of all, we don't have any invoice. We're going to get an empty result. As you can see, we got an empty result. Alright. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. We can't get any invoice. It is empty. Let's create an invoice. Okay, invoice that comes automatically. Let's leave it as it is. PO number. Let's say PO 12345. Client ID. I forgot the client ID. Let's have a look how many clients we have. And yeah, the ID is 3. Let's add this number 3 for client ID section. Invoice items, as you can see, it is asking us a name, price and quantity. The other property is going to be calculated automatically. Let's say brick price is 1, quantity is 2, just random numbers to make calculation and make calculation quickly. Let's add a little bit more. Let's cement, let's say wood, whatever it is. Okay, let's execute. We got a problem, so it is telling we a comma at the end. We have an extra comma here. Yeah, here we go. Let's execute it again. Here we go. 201. This is a success message. Respond return. We have a return value. As you can see, quantity VAT total, grand total calculated automatically, and for invoices as well. The total is 6 and total is 2, 2, another 2 is going to be 6. If you do the calculation, you will see the calculation is correct. All right, so let's continue with an update. So I'm going to copy, or should I? Okay, let's go to update invoice. Okay, try it out. The ID, invoice ID is, let me have a look, invoice ID. Where is my invoice ID? Okay, we don't return invoice ID here. Let's get all invoices now Yeah, invoice ID 7. By the way, let's bring our number 7 ID. Invoice ID. Here we go. This is our invoices, but we don't have in our client invoice items. I did some changes on our services, by the way. I'm going to show you as well. It is good to see that I totally forgot in our services. But let's continue what I'm doing right now. Then I'm going to show you the changes in my services. Okay, let's continue update method. The invoice ID is going to be 7. Let's keep the invoice date as it is. PO number, let's say PO 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Client ID is going to be 6. Was it 6? No, is it 3? It is 3. All right. So we have invoice items here. Let me think for a second. Should I change the invoice items? Okay, I'm gonna try something different. I'm not gonna touch any invoice items. I'm just gonna the update PO number. Let's see, is it going to be all right? I'm going to delete this. All right, let's delete everything. Let's execute. Let's see what's gonna happen. Okay, we got an error message. Yep, the invoice items summary blah 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 auto calculated is totally gone. Okay, let's go back here. Let's control Z. We need to give whole data what we have for update because it is expecting us to update it. All right, let's come here. This is our invoice items, right? I'm just copy this, just this tree. All right, brick, price, quantity. Let's delete this one. Okay, I'm gonna make it AAA. I'm gonna update the other one as well. The other, okay, I'm gonna keep the other one as it is. Put a small comma, open your brackets. Put another, okay, let's delete that comma. Put another comma. Let's add this, oops, add this item here. All right, open your curly brackets. Okay, let's fix the format. It looks like a quite shit. Okay, let's put some spaces here, and name is going to be here. Let's, this is name of our item. Let's put that bracket down. Put that bracket down. Put this name to the down again. This is how it's supposed to be look like in the first hand. All right, let's delete. Perfect. The format is now correct. Let's try to update. I keep as it is our cement and wood. I change the name of one of my invoice items and invoice informations. Let's see what's gonna happen right now. Updated units cannot be tracked. Those items be tracked. Yeah. All right. So we have two different ID tracking here. Let's try to keep brick as it is again. Now see the results. Yeah, we got the same result. So this is basically while we're changing our invoice, basically it is created two different invoices. So let's fix that bug and we can continue, and I'm going to show you another thing in our services. Okay, first of all, let's close invoice item methods. Let's fix those invoice based methods. Okay, I use previously in our MVC project, if you remember, we used auto include. Instead of auto include, I add manually include invoice items and the clients in our all invoice list. And if you would like to see in your get invoice by ID, you can use get all and first all default instead of get item by ID. It depends what kind of that data you would like to return. Let's switch it. First, fix that issue. Get all first all default. Okay, now we found our object. All right, now we're going to include invoice items and the client itself. Let me have a look. I'm gonna type again. Okay, we need to add include just before first and default. That's why we're receiving error messages here, because this is an iQueryable method. We're going to complete our query. Let's have a look. Get all is iQueryable. We need to complete our query using include method. Okay, include, and after include is completed, we're going to use first and default. We're going to find our invoice here. Okay, this is fixed. Let's continue the track ID problem while we're updating. Okay, let's have a look. We're creating an invoice here. So this is first and default request ID, perfect. Map item, so we are doing a map here, and we're trying to update this mapped item here. Alright guys, let me think for a second. Probably it's happening. We have two different invoice item here. One we created here, the second one is a mapper is creating a new instance of an invoice. Instead of using this mapper, I'm going to switch it, the other mapper, which we using for comes as an outcome object. So I'm going to give invoice as an outcome, which is we have two overloads for our mapper. As you can see, this is the request DTO, this is the invoice outcome, and that. Alright, let's delete it. We don't need it anymore. Probably we're not going to get any error messages. And now we're going to have our update method, hopefully. Let's run the application and let's see the results again. It's been already 22 minutes. I didn't start my invoice item section. That's why I created those codes previous lesson. It's going to be huge amount of minutes for one video, and I'm really busy at these times. I'm trying to how can I say, adapt myself in my new position, in my new software developing job, and trying to create my own projects, and I'm a little bit busy. That's why I did this video like this time. Alright, let's continue. Let's see the invoice by ID first. Let's 7. Alright, as you can see, we received client invoice items when we send a request just to receive a one invoice number. Okay, let's continue the update method. Hopefully it is going to work now. Let's get all invoices. Okay, invoice items, perfect. Okay, we need to add the ID as well. Yeah, we did a mistake here. Okay, perfect. It's good to know. ID, brick, price, and quantity. Let's copy these three. Or actually, I'm gonna copy all of them. Just a second. Let's copy all of them and we can clear it. Let's copy. Try it out. Paste. Okay. I don't need this data, and let's delete it, and I don't need status code and error anyway. Okay, we don't need extra bracket. We don't need extra bracket. ID invoice at PO number. VAT total. These are going to be calculated automatically. And client. We don't need any client. We are giving client ID. It is unnecessary. All right. So what is this? Bracket 4. Delete it. We don't need it. Okay, invoice items. Let's delete the figures. Yep. All right. Anything else should I change for this? Seems everything all right. Let's do some changes. Let's give AAA for PO number. Client ID is all right. ID okay. Now I'm going to change brick for just BBB. Cement is going to be CCC. Let's leave it as it is. Rest of them. Let's execute. We got 204. It's completed. Let's see the results. Hopefully it is going to be all right. All right, guys. Let's clear the results and execute again. Okay, PO number is AAA. Invoice item, as you can see, this 2 is changed. Okay, but probably you get another error messages, or you didn't get error messages, but you will have a problem right now because the main problem is while I was creating these things, okay, we have a generic repository, right? And while we get using getAll, there is a as no tracking here. If you check your own codes right now, our generic repository has as no tracking. I delete it because actually if you add as no tracking, it gives you extra speed while you're using your getAll because you're not tracking your listing methods. But when we go back our update DTO, let me have a look my update DTO. Where's my update DTO? Invoice services. Okay, let's have a look. Update invoice. Okay, so while we're doing this update thing, we are updating our list as well. Okay, let's go back our update DTO invoice DTO. Okay, we are updating this collection invoice items. So we change the name of our invoice items using the collection. Then we need to track this collection as well. All right, so I delete this as no tracking to able to track this collection. If you use as no tracking, you're going to receive success message, but the database will be same as it is. All right, do not forget it. If you would like to make changes on your collections, you need to remove as no tracking on your getAll methods. All right, I assume you understand what I did here, and I'm going to explain this when we go back, go further for invoice item manipulations. All right, let's continue. So update is working as well. Create, update, everything is working. And delete invoice. We need to delete invoice as well. The invoice number is 7. When we execute it, 204, all invoices and with the sub items is going to be deleted. We got nothing here. Okay. But if you're having an error about mapping right now, I did a changes about our mappings. It's about collection mapping while updating, guys. Let me show my mapper application. Okay. The main problem is in this mapping. Let me show you. Okay, I'm confused as well. Let's collapse all definitions. Perfect. While we mapping object, okay, we selecting collection or single, right? Okay. Once we direct to the single site, it's all good. I add this section. Let make comment this section. Why I add this section? Because if we have a destination property as a collection, we don't need to send the outcome object, right? Because if you send an outcome object, when we go to collection mapper, when we come to collection mapper, we can't use it. We need to create new list and we need to add this list what we have in our hands. We're going to create totally new list and we're going to replace the new list with the old one. Okay, we can't track all object in that list. We can't match them, we can't track them. So that's why we are just creating a new list and we're going to replace what we have in our hands and in the database. This is how it's going to work. All you need to do is you're going to add your mapper class, these codes, and it's going to work smoothly. All right. But do not forget, do not worry about it. We're not going to use this mapper class again after this playlist because I just created this mapper class to show you what is the reflection, how we able to use it, and what is the benefits of reflection, basically. All right. Hopefully, I assume you understand what the reflection is if we compare our MVC project and this API project. Alright, let's continue. Mapper is done, generic repository is fixed, deleting as no tracking, and we manage our DTOs. Now it's come to manipulate our invoice items without using specified service. Let's save everything. Let's close all tabs. Minimize everything. Let's go our services and let me explain what I did in my where's my okay, this is where's my best methods? Yeah, yes, closed. Okay, what I did in invoice item methods. Okay, alright guys. First of all, we have an invoice, we created an invoice with some items, but what if we need to remove some items? Basically, I create a remove invoice items DTO. Let's go back this model. This one is created newly. And I'm going to send invoice ID as a parameter. And I'm going to an ID list of invoice items which is need to be removed from my invoice. Okay. Once we created this DTO, all right, all we need to do is enter the invoice ID and the invoice item ID list, and we're going to do our logic. First of all, we need to find our invoice, and we use invoice repository get all methods, and I'm including all invoice items, and I'm finding my related invoice comes from my request invoice ID. So I have my invoice, and do not forget we are start tracking this invoice. Let's type here tracked, okay? So invoice, if the invoice is null, we returning a error message. And now I'm going to switch this invoice to invoice DTO because my old calculations is located my invoice DTO. Let me show you. Entity invoice is a normal entity. We don't have anything here, but invoice remove invoice items DTO. Oh, not you, sorry. Invoice update for remove items has calculations, which I mentioned before. Alright, so we created invoice DTO. Then I created an empty error messages outside of the for each just in case if we have an error messages, I'm going to fill this class, fill this object with the error messages. Okay, now let's iterate the invoice item IDs comes from our list, and every item ID is going to be find our invoice DTO invoice items. So invoice item DTO, invoice item ID, if it's equal to remove item ID, if it is a wrong ID, we're going to fill error messages with an error. And I'm using continue to stop continue for this iteration, and I'm going to go to next iteration. And invoice DTO invoice item remove won't work if we have any error. If we don't any error, if we able to find remove item, it is going to be removed invoice items list. All right. So we're going to iterate all IDs, and we're going to remove all items from our collection. Once it's completed, for example, we sent 2 items, our invoice has 10 items, it's going to be 8 items left, right? So now we have an invoice DTO with less invoice items. Let's continue. If we have any error messages, we are returning our error messages here, and we stop what we are doing right now. But if we don't have, just say we have less invoice items invoice, we're going to map this invoice DTO to the invoice. But do not forget, we're going to use second overload or mapping, which we created, because this invoice is tracking. We don't need to create a new instance of invoice. So if we do that, we're going to get error messages. You're already tracking the same blah 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 error messages. Okay, so once we mapped our updated invoices, okay, there I put a small logic. If invoice items has a 0 item, so it means we don't have any item, so we don't need to have invoice as well. So I'm just deleting all invoices. Okay, if we have some item inside, we just update the invoices, and we're returning 204. This is the logic what I created, guys. I would like to point out something different while we updating. While we are mapping this object, I would like to point out again our changes in our mapper. Okay, let's go back here. When it comes to collection mapper section, while we are mapping our invoice items, which is a nested object, I mean sub-object, all right, I want to create a new fresh new object, and I'm going to add my new items to that object, which is in our example it is going to be 8 now. So the 10 item object is going to be deleted, and it's going to be replaced by 8 item object. Basically, this is the logic behind the mapper. Alright, I assume you understand in this section as well. Alright, let's close this method and let's continue the add invoice items. This is much more easy. Okay, so I created another section, another DTO. So we are sending invoice ID just in case if we would like to add new items. So we are adding invoice item create DTO list, and we're going to send new items. All right, perfect. But to do that, as you can see, we are mapping previously invoice update for remove, but now I need to map to my object invoice update for add items. The difference is add items, I'm using invoice item create DTO. Remove items, I'm using invoice item update DTO. The main difference is create has no ID, update has an ID. That's the main problem. Alright, so I just create two different DTO and separate, I made that separate the requirements. Alright, first of all, we're going to find our invoice. It is tracked again. Okay, then if it's invoice null, we're going to receive an error messages as usual. Then invoice DTO has been created using, let me have a look. I used a new instance here. Okay, let me have a look. Oh, yeah, we can use that one for new instance. It's okay. So we have, because this is an DTO, it won't be a problem. We create a new instance of invoice DTO. All right. Then once it's created, I'm going to add as a range my request invoice item list. I don't need to iterate for each or another loop methods. I just use add range and add my all list to my invoice items. Once invoice DTO is updated, I'm using mapper again using source one, outcome one, because it's tracking. I need to create a new instance of invoice. Okay, so update invoices was created. I'm just updating the invoice, and add new invoice items is completed. You can return 204 or 201 with the new object. Actually, let's switch it. Let's switch it. Let's see the. Should we see the invoice itself? Let me think a little bit. So we are returning invoice update for add items DTO. We are updating the item. Alright, let me think for a second. If I return that one, let's remove this one. So our invoice DTO is updated here. So we can return with a success, and we can switch it to 1 because we are adding new items. In this section, we're going to see whole invoices. Or you can change your logic. If you would like to see just the added items, you can do that as well. Or should we do that? Okay, let me think for a second. Add invoice items DTO is invoice item create DTO, right? Let's copy this one. Actually, I'm going to get whole list. I'm going to return what I added. Okay, invoice item create DTO. And we just need to give invoice item create DTO, which is comes from our request anyway. Request dot let's put a comma here. Request dot invoice item list. All right, it's going to be better, I guess. After we completed our methods, I just add those in our signature section. This is our base methods. This is our invoice item methods. Okay, so we change our return type, right? Let's update it. The return type is now list invoice item create DTO. I think it's gonna be alright now. Let's have a look. Do we have any error messages? No, it's perfect. Alright, then let's go back to controller section. Let me have a look. Invoice controller. Do we have any problem here? Invoice item DTO request, perfect. Alright, these are same as what we done here. Basically, I'm trying to keep my controller as simple as possible as simple, because services, that's why we services have for this. Okay. Alright, let's save everything and run the application. Hopefully we won't get any error messages. And while project is trying to be started, I'm going to check my changes. Is there anything should I forget to tell you? Invoice controller service extension. Okay, we amend service extension as well. Okay, if you remember, I removed invoice item services and I just delete those scopes. You can update your service extension as well. Mapper done, invoice controller done, repository is done, DTOs are done, services are done. Yeah, it seems everything is done for now. All right, here we go. This is our project. Now, I guess we don't have any invoice right now. I'm going to create a new one. Let me have a look. Yeah, I need to create a new one. Post. Yeah, try it out. PO number, I'm going to leave as it is to save some time. The client is 3. Okay, priority is 1, but sorry, price is 1, quantity is 2. Just copy all of them. 2 is enough. I'm not gonna put, because we're gonna add and delete anyway. Okay, let's make it 3. Let's make it 3. 3, 2, 1. Anything else? Execute. Oh, what is the problem here? Okay, what is the problem? There is a problem here. Let me have a look quickly. Oh, it wasn't working? What happened to know? What happened to it? PO number, client ID, invoice items. Okay, let's have a look at error messages one more time. The JSON value couldn't be converted to invoice items, DTO, invoice item, create DTO. The request field is required. It's weird. Okay, let's put a breakpoint to understand what's happening here. Create invoice. Execute it. No, it's not. Are we creating invoice? What we are doing right now? Why it's not triggered then? Invoice, create invoice, yeah. So what's happening? Why it's not triggered? Get invoice by the create invoice. It's totally weird right now. I don't know what's happening. Let me make it a little bit smaller. Okay, this is invoice post method. This is post method. Yeah, we have a problem in JSON value. Okay, did we something wrong? Because it's not triggered from the controller. It's something wrong with here, I guess. Invoice items. Seems everything correct. Okay, clear. Reset. I'm going to add one more time. Control C, comma, Control V, comma, Control V, string, instead of string A, B, C, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2. Let's execute. Here we go. Let's continue. Okay. Foreign key, conflict. Okay, we have a problem again. Let me, did we add client ID? Yeah, we forgot to add our client ID. Yes, add it now. Execute it. Here we go. All right. We don't have any problem. We just add wrong um, format for JSON. That's why we're receiving error. It's added. Okay. And I'm passing update. It's already working, and delete is already working. I'm passing these two, and we're going to work on remove invoice items. All right. Let's have a look. The ID, the items ID, what we added. Let's execute. Okay. 51, 52, 50, 51, 52. Okay, let's delete 51 and 52. What's gonna happen? I'm open my circle, by the way. Let's see the tables. These are my table. Okay, as you can see, this is invoice client ID 3, invoice ID 9, and invoice ID 999. These are the invoice items with all prices and everything. Let's make an calculation 2 for 6 total and 6 total. Everything is correct. All right, let's get back our project now. Swagger. I'm going to remove invoice items. All right, let's try. Invoice ID is 9. Remove invoice item ID list. I'm going to remove 51 and 52. Let's execute 204. Let's go to CQL, and we deleted 51 and 52, right? It is total is must be 2. Let's execute. The total is 2, as you can see. Let's go to invoice items, and 51 and 52 is deleted. This is how it's working. Let's check from our Swagger as well. This is get all invoices. Let's clear it, execute it. As you can see, just one invoice items we received. Perfect. Alright, guys. Let me see. By the way, client section has invoices and it is null because we didn't include that. That's why it's coming null. Let me have a look. But when we go client section, let's have a look. This is null because we didn't add include. Okay, we do not. I'm gonna add these includes as well to see what we have. But we need to create two different DTO for client and for invoice because I don't want to see invoices again. My invoices list. All right, let's continue with the add new items for my invoice. Let's try now. Okay, the invoice ID. Which invoice do we would like to add our items? Obviously we have just one invoice and its ID is 9. The name is going to be FFF. The price is 1. The quantity is 2. To make the calculation easily, copy. Let's add 3 different items. Okay. GGG HHH. Alright. Everything is set. Let's execute. As you can see, we received what we add and we are returning 201. 3 item has been added. All right, let's get back our invoice. Where is my, okay, invoice get all invoices. Let's clear and execute. As you can see, the 3 item has been added. We have 4 more items and the calculation is total 8. Each item has 2 as a total price, so it's going to be 8. Everything is correct. Let's check from SQL side. As you can see, we have 4 items now, right? Let's execute. We have 8 for total. Perfect. Everything is working smoothly, and let's close the application now and fix that include things in our clients and invoices. All right, let's minimize everything. Where's my models and services? Okay, I need those things. It's client services. Instead of auto include, I mentioned before, I'm using normal include. Where is my, okay, this is create, delete, get all. Yep, here we go. And if you remember to optimize our project, I'm going to add as no tracking here as well, because I don't need to track my client. I'm not doing any changes using collections here. All right, include invoices. Perfect. Invoices is added here. I'm returning client DTO. Perfect. Everything is set here. Let's add these things for our client by ID, but we need to change get item by ID. We need to use same methods what we used here. All right. First all default, the ID must be the ID, comes from parameter. Anything else? I think all done. Okay, if client is null, everything is same. So now we're going to receive the invoices linked to the client, and they won't be tracked anymore. If you need to be track it, just remove as no tracking, and you will able to do your delete, update, and add operations for this too, guys. Okay, but I'm not gonna keep as no tracking in my ID because it is just one item, so it's not gonna make a extra performance for my queries. Just in case if it's needed to be and manipulate. So I'm not gonna use as no tracking. Okay, but get all client, it's good to use it. All right. Now another thing, we're going to receive all invoices again in our invoices, because let me show you my DTO, my invoice DTO has invoice. Okay, okay, we have a client. That's the problem. We need to return client DTO anyway. Okay, let's fix this as well. It's good to see this section because this is a DTO. We can't return just entity. Okay, let's have a look. Client DTO and client DTO listing invoice again. Invoice returning client. It's going to be nested operation. So I'm going to create another DTO here. Client DTO for invoice. For invoice. Okay, let's add everything. Actually, I don't need ID as well. I just need these. These are going to be enough for me. Client DTO for invoices. Okay, now I'm going to add this DTO to my invoice DTO. Alright, now we're not able to see unnecessary invoices again and again in invoice section, guys. Let's see everything again. Start with the client. Here we go. We are able to see our invoices. Invoices has our clients as well. Okay, we have invoices underneath of the client, but we have, as you can see, mapper depth. So we're not stopping. Actually, can I use depth 2 to preventing client again? Okay, let's get back our client. All right, client DTO. by the way, this is invoice. We need to, why I did like this? We need to return invoice item detail, invoice detail. It's weird. Okay, please update your project, guys, accordingly. All right, let's save everything. Um, I need to check the invoice detail. Invoice detail has the client again one more time, so I need to manipulate more mapping depth. Let me have a look my services. So if I do change depth for 2, let's see what kind of result we're going to have, because I don't want to see nested objects again and again, same objects. Alright, but we are not able to see the invoices as well. We need to optimize our mappers depth operation. I'm not gonna do that. If you would like to do touch the mapper, guys, you are free to go and you can consider this as a homework. Now I'm not gonna touch it anymore. I'm gonna leave as it is for now with the 3. Alright, let's run the application. But we are including our sub objects. Alright, let's get by ID. Alright, this is the client, this is the invoice, and we are receiving the client again one more time for each invoices. This is a little bit frustrating. Let's have a look at all invoices. This is our invoices, this is our client. We are receiving just one client without any extra information because we created a new DTO. We can create another invoice DTO for the client as well. Let's do that instead of changing our mapper. It's much more easier for me for now. I'm telling you the options, guys. You can do whatever you want. Invoices DTO add class invoice DTO for client. Okay, let's get back invoice. I need just invoice date, PO numbers, and grand total. Nothing left. Okay, I'm going to copy. Where is my DTO for client? Invoice DTO for client. Yeah. Let's delete these two. Grand total, PO number, and invoice date. That's all enough for the invoice DTO for client. Let's copy this one and client DTO. Basically, it's going to return invoice DTO for client. Let's run the application and see the results. What's going to happen now? It's going to be better use DTOs amending instead of amending mapper class, guys. Okay, let's see the clients now. As you can see, this is the company and this is the invoices they have, total, PO number, and invoice date. Perfect. It's better solution, I think. If we go to invoices, we're going to see just client. Perfect. Lovely. I think I mentioned about everything in this lesson. Let me think for a second if there is any missing parts and pieces. It's been 1 hour. Close all tabs. Save everything, minimize everything. Let me have a look my git changes. And let me check everything what I did. Generic repository. What happened that... Okay, this is the pretty new service. That's why this is client service. Did we any changes? Yep, we talk about that. We talk everything about those. We amend our details, mapper, repository, service extension, all done guys for this lesson. If you confuse anything else, do not hesitate to drop comment below the video, and I suggest you, strongly suggest you get my go my GitHub repository, clone the project and check the codes, and step by step, slowly type the codes. And if you struggle anything, just ask me. I'm here to help you guys, do not worry about them. Today video is going to be a little bit late. Sorry about that, I mentioned about that. I'm really tight schedule in these days. I'm trying to do my best. Take care of yourself. See you on next lesson. Bye bye guys.